What is going on? Good morning. Some of us are ready to rock here on Woodward Bets. Some of us are still recovering from a big night for the Michigan Wolverines, 42-3 over Iowa Big Ten champs. Obviously locked into the college football playoffs. Had a good time last night with the Woodward Bets crew out at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So I want to say thank you to those guys hosting us there. Great atmosphere. If you have not been down there, go and check it out. It had an amazing time. So thank you to the boys over there, Stu, JP, and the rest of the crew. We had a great time. But Scotty G, good morning, buddy. We got to get some coffee in you. You had a good time last night.
Man, good thing they didn't have them M43s with those 8% beers. I'd be really hurting there today, buddy. But yeah, man, I mean, how exciting was that? Michigan pulled it off 42-3. I mean, it was kind of what we expected, what we said. And we got to give you some kudos. I mean, you called the Alabama game over there on the Ryan and Braylon show. That's another one you got right, man. They're going to keep asking you back every day. You keep up that stuff.
Hey, we're giving winners. That's what we're doing here at Woodward Bets. So yeah, Alabama, that was an easy, I would say easy. It was a classic fade to public spot. We talked about it on our Saturday show. A lot of support behind Georgia. Alabama, people were saying, that they're not that good. And Georgia really didn't have that tough of a schedule this season. So, yeah, they've been dominant. But Alabama, Nick Saban, they're always going to be in the mix. And you saw that yesterday. Other games, Cincinnati took care of business. So it looks like they're going to be in as well. So let's take a second, talk about this. We're going to get to the NFL. If you are here for NFL, welcome. Sound off in the chat here on YouTube. We'll be keeping an eye on that, answering any questions you guys have on this slate. We got a lot of injuries, a lot of moving parts that we will talk about some NFL. But Scott, how do you see these rankings playing out here in college? I think what we're going to see is they're not going to want Georgia and Alabama to face off again, and that to be a potential national championship game rematch. That makes more sense to me. So the way I see it, I think Alabama is going to be 1, Michigan 2, Georgia 3, Cincinnati 4, which is going to pit Michigan and Georgia, which should be a fun game. But I think that's the matchups that we're going to see in college football playoffs. So agree, disagree? Quick thoughts on that before we kind of talk some NFL here today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it'd be nice to see Michigan bump up to 1, and then have Alabama and Georgia 2-3. But like you said, they're not going to have them play again. But I was actually talking about with a few guys before. I think if it was Michigan and Ohio State in the same scenario, I think they would pair them up 2-3. But I mean, you think about it, Michigan is a pretty good draw. So to me, if they had Michigan play Cincinnati, and then they had that rematch again in the semifinals, I actually think they would get better ratings along the way with instead of an SEC team playing Michigan and an SEC team playing Cincinnati, because I believe that Cincinnati SEC game will not get the ratings that a Michigan Cincinnati game would get. So to me, logically, I think they would be better off to have those two play in the 2-3 matchup, the two SEC teams. But we pretty much already know, Chris, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, I don't see that happening, but in my mind, that would make more sense to move Michigan up to the number 1. But especially the way Alabama, fared a few of their games they struggled a little bit. They didn't look as dominant as a normal Alabama team. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do, but I think we already know what's going to happen. But hey, as a Michigan fan, we didn't expect to be here, so I'm excited for it to begin with. It's at this point, if you're a Michigan fan, I think you're already happy, win or lose in the next game. I know I am. So, we kind of joked yesterday. I was talking with some Michigan buddies up there at the sports book, and Ohio State lost a couple big recruits, especially that big top quarterback here. Michigan's picked up a few recruits, so that's a big deal here when recruiting time, especially this time of the year. You start losing some of these games, and man, that quarterback, I forgot his name, but he was the number 1 quarterback in the class of 2022. So for him to pick up and leave Ohio State is definitely interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a Wisconsin fan. Michigan, I don't hate them. There's no rivalry there. So I'm gonna. Rarely do I drink out of the wife works at
Oh
University of
boy.
Michigan, so rarely are you going to see this. But I got to give a shout out. I mean, it was a hell of a performance, and I love the board behind you for a lot of reasons. That we talked about the Oxford thing. We don't need to go back into that again. But to land on 42 points, wearing that patch, Tate Myre's jersey number. Not coincidental, I don't think. So pretty fun night again for your Michigan Wolverines and for us at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Had a great time. So thanks to those guys once again. So as always, if you're not following us on Twitter, what are we doing here? Get with it at Woodward Bets. Follow the network at Woodward Sports. Let's get into the show here for today, Scott. A lot of NFL on the docket for today, so that'll be the primary focus of the show. So if you guys are out there, you got questions about your season-long team, any bets you're looking at today, you're torn on some things, let us help you out. Sound off in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that again as we go along here. So first game up, Scotty, we got Giants and the Miami Dolphins. So kind of an ugly game here. I mean, the Giants looks like they're going to be starting Mike Glennon at quarterback. The weapons are going to be missing some pieces there. Miami starting to put it together here offensively. So what are you doing in this one? I think there's a few ways you could go here with Miami. A guy like Jalen Waddle playing some good ball. Maybe we go back to Gaskin. Are you interested in going Tua at quarterback here? Thoughts here, Giants and the Dolphins.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin's interesting. I mean, the Giants allowed the 8th most points to running back, and he's averaged a little over 19 touches in the last 6 games. So I think he's a decent running back 2 option. I'm not sure if he's an RB1, but yeah, you mentioned Jalen Waddle. I mean, that guy was on the on the Millie team last week, I'm pretty sure. So he's 5th in catches, 77 catches so far. So yeah, the rookie. I mean, he may be rookie of the year. I think he's definitely a candidate. And then you can always look at a guy like Gesicki too for a tight end. He's not too bad. He's one of Tua's favorite guys. So I don't mind Gesicki as well. But yeah, I think Waddle and Gaskins are probably the 2 guys here I'd look at. I'm not really enamored with any of these Giants. So just I don't see the upside there.
Yeah, I think you could take a shot on Saquon Barkley. You know, Mike Glennon, we've seen this before. We know what kind of quarterback he is. I don't expect him to go out and score a bunch of points, but maybe he gets some of those dump offs, a few more receptions. Maybe they lean on the run a little bit more here today. But this Miami defense is playing at a pretty high level here of late. So really tough to trust any Giants, like you mentioned. So maybe Saquon more as a run it back. So meaning if you have a piece on Miami, you want a piece on the other side. Not necessary to do that in lineups, but try to do with as much correlation as possible. So what about a bet here, Scott? I'm seeing mostly -6.5 here on Miami. There are some 6s out there. Total really low with some 40s, some 39.5s here.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I mean, this one started out at 2.5. I think when we got that Mike Glennon news, it bumped up to 6.5 for the Dolphins. But I think the Giants are in a little bit over their head. Mike Glennon is not somebody you want to play. Didn't you call him Giraffe Neck or something that one the other day?
He's got the longest neck in history, man. Go look it up. I mean, it's really impressive.
So, but I think I'd lean the Dolphins here in this matchup. 68% of the money's coming in on the Dolphins, and in this spot here, I think I'd agree with the public.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think this is the best bet for me. I'm probably not going on this game, but I lean to Miami here as well. I like the way they're playing. I like Waddle today for fantasy. I don't disagree with the Gesicki call. You worry a little bit about Gaskin with Phillip Lindsay there. Is his role going to grow? Maybe they want that split backfield that's what they wanted in the beginning of the year with Malcolm Brown. So maybe that's Phillip Lindsay now. So mainly just Waddle for me here. And if I'm running a ton of lineups, I want some exposure to Saquon Barkley. So let's move on to a better game here. Maybe one side better here. Indianapolis at Houston. Brandon Cooks was dealing with an illness. Sounds like he's going to play. David Johnson, not so much. So it sounds like he's going to miss this week. The Colts, all systems go on their side. So the main question here, Scott, Jonathan Taylor has been outstanding. I mean, he's a guy that's going to be at the top of a lot of people's running back lists today. Is he a must play for you today? The passing game to me is very intriguing. If Taylor's going to be pretty popular, which at running back I don't worry about as much, but if this passing game is going to go overlooked, you know, Wentz and Pittman stand out as guys I want some exposure to here. 28-point team total. You know, maybe the passing game is what gets it done here. So how are you handling Indy and the Texans? We say it all the time. It's Brandon Cooks or bust pretty much, unless you want to take a wade into these Texans running backs without David Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jonathan Taylor. The dude's handled 19 touches, 6 straight games. He's just obviously been the number one running back so far in fantasy. So there's only 4 teams that have given up more points to running backs than Houston. The last time they played, it was 31-3. So I mean, they got just the Colts are just one of the best offensive lines, which obviously is helping Taylor so far. But yeah, I think the passing game here is interesting. But you just wonder though if you're going to get any production in the second half, because if they get out and they're just smashing them, I think you could see obviously a blowout here. But Brandon Cooks is interesting. The Colts allowed the 6 most points to wide receivers on the perimeter, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to keep up with Brandon Cooks' his speed out there. But I think that's all that Houston has here in this game. But yeah, I think Taylor's going to be pretty popular. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's almost been scoring 2 touchdowns almost every week. So, but at his price, man, you almost need those 2 touchdowns, or he's not going to pay off for you. But yeah, I mean, like we seen like last week, everybody was on Tom Brady, and what happens? Fournette falls in the end zone 4 times, and man, what a great leverage spot that was with Fournette 4% owned last week in a game like that. I mean, I think this is a spot here where you could see the same kind of thing, where maybe Carson Wentz goes off and Jonathan Taylor does not score those touchdowns. But Pittman's always a guy here that I've used quite a bit this year. He's hasn't had those huge smash spots, but he sure does seem to get there with and you need to pay him off. I mean, he's not blowing it up, but he seems to get around the 20 mark quite a bit.
Yeah, the thing I worry about, I mean, I like Taylor. This is not a don't play Jonathan Taylor endorsement. It's looking at the ownership, and sometimes you can find that leverage like you brought about with Leonard Fournette. I got another good example coming up here when we talk the Detroit game. But Jonathan Taylor, I'm looking up some of the props here. Have you seen this yet? Get anytime touchdown, Jonathan Taylor. I want to see how good your bookmaking skills are here. I'm in the FanDuel Sportsbook. So without looking, what is the anytime touchdown odds here for Jonathan Taylor?
Minus 170.
Not even close, my friend. If we're playing prices right, man. Minus 310.
Ooh, wow.
310.
I don't know if I've seen one that high.
That's one of the highest I have seen in a very long time. So basically means you have to bet $310 to win 100. So they're pretty confident Jonathan Taylor is going to score a touchdown, which I don't disagree with. It's avoiding the Jonathan Taylor 40-point game. If you're going to fade him, it's not the one touchdown that kills you. It's the 3-4 touchdowns at 180 yards. The concern with Wentz Pittman is if the game goes that route and they're blowing them out, this is not an offense that's going to continue to throw the ball all over the field. So if they get out to an early lead, it can kind of cap the ceiling. But that being said, maybe that's the reason they get out to the early lead. So just something to keep an eye on in the ownership with Jonathan Taylor here. How about a bet, Scott? We got Indy, looks like minus 10, pretty much across the board. There are some 9.5s at DraftKings if you really like the Colts here. Another really low total in this one, sitting right around 43, looks like 44 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at some of the Colts are 8-0-1 their last against the spread in their last 9 meetings in Houston, and the Colts are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 meetings. So, with that being said, I think the Colts are going to continue to roll here. I think they should roll up Houston pretty good. I don't see that offense really doing too much here against this Colts team.
I'm going to go on the total here. I like an under in this one. Like you mentioned, the Texans offense, I think they may struggle to score. Indy, if they get it going on the ground, slow things down, keeps that clock running. We talk about it all the time. The under's hit in 4 of the last 5 between these two. So they know each other well. I think this could be an ugly type game. So an underplay for me here on this one. Next one, let's talk the local team, Scott. Minnesota, I should say, coming to town to take on your Lions. Looks like we're sitting minus 7 at most books. FanDuel's got it up at 7.5. Total in this one at pretty much 46.5 across the board. So the story here, like we talked about on our initial look, no Dalvin Cook for Minnesota. So Alexander Mattison steps in as the lead back. No DeAndre Swift on the Detroit side. So we'll see a healthy dose of Jamal Williams. So talk about these running backs, and this is that leverage spot I was talking about. I think a lot of people are going to be excited about Alexander Mattison, again, with good reason. A lot of times you pivot, you look for leverage. Doesn't mean the guy's a bad play. Alexander Mattison is in a fantastic spot. If you're talking cash games, you're talking Alexander Mattison, I'm all aboard. But if tournaments, the ownership's going to get high. Let's not forget about Justin Jefferson, who has dominated this Detroit team in his young career. So the running backs here, Scott, Justin Jefferson. How are you handling Vikings Lions today?
Man, I mean, you mentioned Madison. I mean, Madison, he's had these 4 career starts. He's had 20 plus touches, 136, 145, 171, 153 yards. So the kid obviously can step right in here for Dalvin Cook. You're right. I think he's going to be one of the most highest owned running backs today, but at least FanDuel did a pretty good job at pricing him up. But I do like this passing game here, as you mentioned. Justin Jefferson, there's just no way any of these Lions are going to be able to cover Justin Jefferson. He got him last time, 7 for 124. The time before that, 9 for 133. So I think Jefferson here is in a great spot. I do like that call there. Without Swift here, I think the Lions are going to struggle offensively. Jamal Williams, I mean, he's going to be able to come in. He's probably going to get 20-some touches. But I think he's another guy you could use as a low-owned. Maybe I think he's going to be lower owned than he should be, actually, for a guy that's going to get 20-plus carries. But, I don't know if I see the upside there. I mean, we'd have to hope that he broke one. I'm not sure how much involved he's going to be in the passing game either. But I think this is a spot here that Minnesota is just probably going to roll the Lions here. I don't see the Lions keeping up. I think Madison and Justin Jefferson are going to do the Lions in today.
Yeah, I mean, it's that they're certainly going to put up their numbers, no doubt. But I think the Lions can be competitive. We talked about it on the bottom line. They're one of the better teams in the league against the spread this season, surprisingly. So I believe they're in the top 5. We threw up a graphic on the show. So
7-4.
I mean,
yeah.
They hang in games. They may not win. We know they're going to, find a way to lose at the end. That's what a team like this does. They just don't know how to win yet, but they have been competitive in a lot of spots here. I don't see Minnesota coming in and blowing them out. So I like the Lions +7. I don't know if it's going to end up in my best bets category, but I do feel pretty good about that. I do like Jamal Williams as a value running back because no matter how this game goes, he's going to be involved, and they'll utilize him in the passing game as well. So you worry about some of the other guys, stealing touches, stealing any touchdown opportunities. That the few that they may have, Scott, you worry about them getting stolen away. But I think he is intriguing as a lower end, cheaper running back play this week. So let's go to our next game, Philadelphia and the Jets up next. Philadelphia about -6.5 here. I'm going to see if this thing's falling though. We got no Jalen Hurts. Today is the big news here for Philadelphia. So this one's come down to -5, -5.5 at a lot of places. Total sitting at 43.5. So the stash is back, Scott. Gardner Minshew going to start today for Philadelphia with no Jalen Hurts. So what does that do to this offense? Are you encouraged now? Maybe some of the receivers become more viable here. Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, guys like that. Other side of the ball, the Jets, any interest in that side? I mean, it's always intriguing. Elijah Moore's, Jamison Crowder's, the running backs, but tough to kind of pinpoint anyone I really like on that side of the ball today.
Yeah, I mean, this game here is pretty ugly, if you ask me. I mean, especially without Hurts. I'm not a fan of these Eagles running backs. We got burned last week with the Miles Sanders chalk, which obviously busted last week. So not quite sure I'm going to go there. I think you're actually going to go to Gainwell today quite a bit with that, but over there. But, yeah, this game's pretty ugly. I mean, Elijah Moore is somebody that I've looked at a few times this year, but I just don't think that the upside's there in this game here. This one's actually pretty ugly for me. This is one I'm probably going to skip and probably won't have too much action in.
That's where I'm at. I'm intrigued by these Philadelphia pass catchers, but this is an ugly game. You want to like a Philadelphia running back with the Jets' ineptitude against this position. I mean, they just allow touchdowns each and every week. So I don't know if we want to step. Maybe it is a week to play Miles Sanders. He was chalky last week. Everyone played him. He disappointed. Maybe we go back to the well here. There's no Jordan Howard. Boston Scott was dealing with an illness most of the week. Sounds like he's going to play, but maybe Miles Sanders is the way to go here. So that's something I'll be looking at up until kickoff. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger or not. Still stinging from last week. Plus, it's the split backfield just gets so tough to deal with. But maybe he's of interest. So, any bets here, Scott? Again, 5.5, 43.5.
Yeah, this one, like I said, this one's tough. Without Jalen Hurts, you might want to just the under here. I mean, it went from 46 down to 43.5. This is one here that I might look at like an under in the first half, where you just kind of feel as if both teams might be running the ball a little bit. I think that Philadelphia is going to try to run the ball today, especially if they're going to be able to just run right over the Jets, who we've seen time and time again have given up quite a few yards and points to running backs. So I think this one here is going to be a slow-paced game. So I think I would lean the under in this game.
Joey, 2 times sounding off in the chat, gave us his college football rankings. Looks like he agreed with my sentiment here. Bama 1, Michigan 2, Georgia 3, Cincinnati 4. Bama Georgia rematch for the championship, he says. We'll see about that. That Georgia-Michigan game, if that is the matchup, should be a lot of fun. And he's also sounding off on Gardner Minshew on a short week of practice. Probably going to be brutal. I can't disagree with that. So I'm with you, Scott. It's pretty much a stay-away game for me. Small lean to the Eagles here. I still think their defense is legit, and this Jets team is just a mess. So if I'm going anywhere, it's probably the Eagles, but I'm probably leaving this one alone. Next game, Arizona and Chicago. We got the Cardinals -7.5 across the board here. Getting some discounted odds on the juice at DraftKings and FanDuel right now at -105 if you're liking the Cardinals. A total sitting at 42, 42.5, and then we do have 143 out there. So news here, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, it's sounding good. I never truly believe it, Scott, until they actually come out with the actives and inactives. That happens at 11:30, so we'll get those shortly. But if those two are back, what's your interest level here against the Chicago defense, which missing some pieces? We know that. Is it the passing game? Do you trust Kyler? Do we continue to go to James Conner? And then can you find anything here on the Chicago side? Very, very tough matchup against a pretty good Cardinals defense today.
Yeah, I think Murray is going to be pretty good to go. From what I'm seeing, Hopkins may play, but he may be limited if he's active. So I'm not going to be really interested in Hopkins today. I mean, Kyler Murray, the question is, his ankle was blown up. Are they going to just let him sit back there and throw the ball, or are they just going to hand it off to James Conner? I think Conner today might get a lot of work. But I'm not going to play Hopkins today just because, like I said, he's been limited. The Bears, that's just ugly over there. We might get some Andy Dalton action today, from what I'm understanding. So not really interested there. David Montgomery, he hasn't scored in 3 weeks or gained more than 60-some yards here recently, so he's been struggling. So I'm not really interested in any of these Bears today, but maybe you could look at a guy like Cole Kmet if you really wanted to reach for like a tight end. I don't mind Cole Kmet in a season-long format, but as far as this game here, this is another ugly one here. I think you're going to see a low-scoring game here, actually. I don't think Arizona is going to push it too much. So I think Arizona and James Conner are in pretty good spots.
Yeah, it is indeed Andy Dalton day today. Justin Fields doubtful. So they did say Dalton will be the starter. That is certainly a concern, and maybe, Darnell Mooney, a guy like that's getting a lot of targets. I don't hate the Cole Kmet play. Like you said, in season long, tight end can be a disaster. We just keep losing guys left and right. If you lost Darren Waller, you're probably scrambling. So he could certainly be a flyer, but I think the Cards dominate this game. I tend to agree on the under, but I'm going to go with Arizona here. Just the thought of, I don't know how Chicago is going to come up with any points, and maybe Arizona kind of carries this total on their own. So with Kyler back, even if Hopkins is limited, it's still a decoy. Could open some things up for AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, some of those guys. But DFS, I'm kind of avoiding this one overall, but I do like the Cardinals here at the -7.5. All right, next game. This one should be fun, Scott. Chargers and Bengals. We got Bengals -3 here at home. Pretty high total in this one as well, sitting right around 49.5 for the most part. So it's this one. There's a lot of ways you can go. I mean, Joe Mixon has been a monster. We've talked about him week in, week out. The guy just continues to put numbers on the board, to put touchdowns on the board. That Cincy passing game certainly also in play here. Other side, you can make a case for Austin Eckler in this matchup. You can make a case for Justin Herbert, stacking him with his weapons. So how are you handling this one? Mixon, to me, is the guy I want the most exposure to here, but I think there's a ton of great DFS plays, season-long plays in this game today. This one should be fun.
Yeah, Mixon is a beast here. I mean, the Chargers generally sell out and they try to stop the pass, but I mean, Mixon, Chargers given up the fourth most fantasy points. They've given up 15 all-purpose touchdowns in just 11 games. So, Mixon actually 62 touches in his last 2 games, Chris. That's that's a lot. So we obviously know the workload's going to be there. So Mixon to me is standing out here. And you look at the other side here with the Chargers. I mean, you look at a guy like, Keenan Allen, you wonder, he's been getting 5 straight games, double-digit targets. Now he's going to be matched up against Mike Hilton, one of the better D-backs here in the NFL. But, I mean, they give up the 6th most 20-yard pass completions, 42 of them, that being Cincinnati. So maybe we get the shootout here, as we're kind of talking about. I do like some Mike Williams, some Keenan Allen. I think there's all kinds of goodness in this game. But definitely Joe Mixon stands out. Chris, like I said, at the beginning of the year at the draft, I actually took Joe Mixon 7th overall, passed him, took him over guys like Devontae Adams and Barkley and Elliott and everybody else. And like I said, when I drafted him, the room got quiet. And boy, I'm sure glad that I did now, because he is carrying me right now to this point. So Joe Mixon to me is my bell cow on my main fantasy team, Chris, and hopefully he gets those 25-plus carries today. But, Joe Mixon for me all day today.
Yeah, he's in a good spot. I'm just looking at some of the props here in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Looks like 91.5 on the rushing yards for Joe Mixon. And you're looking at rushing and receiving yards. He's sitting at 111.5. Austin Eckler at 95.5. And a nice touchdown prop for Joe Mixon here as well at -155. Eckler at -145. So both of these guys looks like they're expected to score. Obviously, doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that. But Mixon, one of my favorite plays of the week. DraftKings price is up a little bit, but you can still make it work. FanDuel, he's up in the mid-9s, but it's easier to fit a guy like him in over there and maybe run it back on the other side, whether you go with Herbert in a pass catcher or even just a skinny stack with one piece on each side. I think this is certainly a game that you are going to want to circle and target in all forms of fantasy today. How about a bet here, Scott? Any leans here? Again, -3 and 49.5 on that total.
I'm actually going to lean the over here. 64% of the money is coming in on the Bengals so far at the -3. But I'm going to roll with the over in this game. I actually think that both teams here should get in the mid-20s, so I like the over 50.
This is one I talked about it in our initial look. My stance has not changed. The spread just does not seem like you would think it would be. Cincinnati at home, which, the old rule, the home team gets 3 points. I don't know how viable that is anymore, but they're coming off of a beatdown of division rival Pittsburgh. The Chargers go to Denver in a game we thought they would roll, and they get rolled up. Why is the spread only 3? If I'm setting a line, it's probably a little bit higher. And so I just think there's reasons why I want to take the Chargers here. I think anybody that looks at this line feels very much like Georgia, Alabama. They're going to say, this is easy. Give me Cincinnati minus the 3. They're on a roll. They're playing great. Everybody's talking about them as an AFC powerhouse, and we're just burying the Chargers here because they had one bad loss. So recency bias is setting in here. I like the Chargers plus the 3 here. I think they bounce back and potentially win this game. So I don't even hate a money line play on this one. Next one, Tampa Bay and the Atlanta Falcons. Tampa, huge favorites as we'd expect in this one. Looks like updated odds, 10.5 pretty much across the board here on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Total at 50.5. So uniform across the board on these numbers here, Scott. And you mentioned Leonard Fournette. Do we go back to him, or do we flip the script here and go back to the passing game? I'm pretty intrigued here with the Brady double stack. So they didn't work last week. It turned into Leonard Fournette week. How are you handling Tampa Bay? It's a team you almost have to have exposure to against this Atlanta team. Do you prefer Fournette? Do you prefer the passing game? And then anything on the Atlanta side? Cordero Patterson, this was the breakout game back in week 2 against this Tampa Bay team. Kyle Pitts there as well. So this is another one. I think you got to find a way to get some exposure in DFS and in your season-long leagues, obviously here in Tampa and Atlanta. What do you got?
Yeah, that week 2 matchup with these two teams. I mean, it was 48-25. You know, they're rolling up the points here against Atlanta. It just seems like Tom Brady seems to just do very well against Atlanta in the past. I don't know if it's that old Super Bowl that's in my mind or what there, Chris, but it does seem like Tom Brady usually has his way with the Falcons. But yeah, I mean, he threw for 5 touchdowns, 276 yards in week 2. I think you're going to get maybe not 5 touchdowns, but I think you're going to get 3 or 4 touchdowns out of him. I like some Mike Evans today. Last time they played, I think he had 2 touchdowns, I believe. I'm pretty sure. But so I'm really interested here in the Tom Brady. I just hope here, if I do play Tom Brady on any of my teams at Atlanta, is able to score some points and keep Tom Brady wanting to keep that foot on the gas pedal and keep rolling it up here. I think Gronk is interesting too. We've seen Brady. That's his security blanket. I mean, he just seems to look to him at all times throughout the game. I think he's a guy here today that is definitely interesting. But, man, I just think here the Buccaneers, I just hope, Chris, that, like I said, that Atlanta can keep up a little bit here. That's my only fear with me rostering Tom Brady today.
Yeah, but the beauty of it, so that to me applies in most cases. We talked about it with Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis passing game. And, if they get up big, they take their foot off the gas. Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, they're not going to do that. They're going to try to roll up as many points, as many touchdowns as possible. So they could be up 28-0 at the half. They're going to come out. They're going to continue to play their game all the way through. So that's always an added bonus of rolling with Tom Brady in his passing game, is you don't worry about that as much as you do with a lot of other teams. So you mentioned the 5 touchdowns earlier this season, even last year, threw for over 390 yards in both games against Atlanta. So I like going back to Brady here. I don't hate Fournette. I think there's so many running backs in play. We haven't even hit on all of them yet, Scott. There's probably 10, 12 strong running back plays that you can make a case for. So it's going to help dilute some of the ownership here. So I don't see Fournette being overly owned. If you want to go back to him in tournaments, no issues there. But I think there's a variety of ways. I'm hesitant on the Atlanta side. Cordero Patterson, yes, he's a playmaker. Yes, he's been great, but he's getting expensive. It's not cheap to roster Cordero Patterson right now. And I've pretty much been hands off with Kyle Pitts lately. Just the hype is not paying off the prices that we're paying on him, even at an ugly or tight end position. So Tampa, the Tom Brady stacks for me. Maybe mixing in a little Leonard Fournette here as well. Any bets here? Does Tampa roll here? Do we get a shootout here? What's your thoughts here on these numbers in the betting market?
Yeah, I actually am going to lean a little bit to the over. The last 10 out of 11 games in this series here have gone over. You just look at the game logs. 48-25, 44-27, 31-27, 28-22, 35-22. Every time these teams play, somebody is up in the 30s. So I'm going to roll with the over here in this one, Chris, and I'm going to roll with the trends. Like I said, last 10 out of 11 in this series have gone over.
I like Tampa here. Atlanta's always that pesky team that makes you worry. Like, Tampa could blow them out. Can they hang in the game? So I'm likely going to leave this one alone. If anything, I'm back in Tampa on this big number, but pretty much one I'll load up on in fantasy, but betting wise, I'll probably leave alone. So we do have official word just breaking now. DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray both will be active today, according to Cliff Kingsbury. So all systems go there with Arizona. So we'll keep an eye on that line, Scott. We'll see if that news kind of brings that line up, or was it already baked in at Arizona -7.5. So let's move on to our next game, Washington and the Las Vegas Raiders. Another game that should be very fantasy friendly here. News on both sides here. We mentioned Darren Waller in the beginning. He will miss this game for the Las Vegas Raiders. Washington will be without J.D. McKissick. So, Scott, it's sizing up to be Antonio Gibson week here. Very cheap on DraftKings. Likely going to be the highest owned running back now on this slate. McKissick is a guy you always worry about siphoning away passing game work. Now, if he's going to get the majority of the touches both through the air and on the ground, it's hard to not like him at some of these prices. Are you worried about the ownership here? We got some chalk on the other side as well with Foster Moreau, very cheap at tight end for the Raiders. So some chalky pieces here in this game, Scott. What are you doing with them today?
Yeah, Gibson's really interesting. I mean, he had a season high 29 rushes, 7 receptions last week. Without McKissick here with that concussion issue, I think he is going to get quite a bit of touches today. I could see him up there in the mid-20s, I would say. So for a guy at his price, yeah, he's definitely is somebody that I'm interested in. So is Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's been really strong. 4 games, 100+ yards and a touchdown. So I'm going to be looking at him as well. But Logan Thomas is another guy. I mean, he came back last week on Monday night. He looked pretty good. He caught his 3 passes, 31 yards. So I think you're going to see Heineke looking at Logan Thomas a little bit. It looks like he got another little weapon here that he'll be looking to. So I do like that. You mentioned no Waller. You know, that's interesting as well. We're going to get Morneau here. I think he might be a pretty decent value tight end to play in some DFS. I don't know if I would go to him in season long, but definitely a DFS value tight end. A lot of times I like to pay down in tight ends. We really haven't seen the tight end smash this year where you're getting just killed by a tight end like we've seen in past years when Kelsey and even Waller and some of these guys have gone off for 30-some points. But, yeah, I think this one's interesting, but Gibson by far is standing out in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on these ownerships. I really like Antonio Gibson, but if he's going to be, upwards of 30, 35, 40% owned, there are some other plays that you could move to. I have the same concerns with Foster Moreau. I mean, he's going to lap the field in tight end ownership. So cash games, if you're playing head-to-heads, 50-50s, 3-mans in DFS, I don't worry about this ownership. When we talk ownership, we're talking strictly tournaments and mostly big field tournament stuff. But if a guy at tight end is going to be that highly owned, Scott, I think it's an easy stay away. If you want some exposure, get them in cash games, get them in your season-long leagues and tournaments. I mean, we're talking 25, 30% on a value tight end. He busts. You're eliminating 30% of the field pretty much with that goose egg, whatever he's going to do. I think in tournaments, I'm likely staying away from Foster Moreau. So any bets in this one here? And real quick, I agree with you. I love Taylor Heineke and McLaurin today. If you want to get off the Gibson chalk, I think that's a great way to do it here. For some odd reason, Heineke's all his big games have come on the road. I know it's very limited sample, and anytime he's had one of those big games, Terry McLaurin right there with him having a monster game. So I don't hate that. A stack of those two. McLaurin pretty expensive out there this week, but that could be a way to get you different in this one. Any bets here? We got, looks like Raiders. It's pretty split, -1.5, -2 at most places here. The total right around 48 at most of them. So thoughts in the betting market here?
Yeah, I actually think that Washington is in a pretty good spot. I mean, as bad as that division is, they're actually still in it over there. So 65% of the money so far has been coming in on the Raiders. I think this is a spot here that I just fade the public and go with the Redskins here. But I don't feel too strong about it. But for some reason here, I'm just not believing in Las Vegas in this spot.
You can't say Redskins anymore. What the hell is wrong with you, Scott?
Well, hey, as fuzzy as my brain is this morning, I'm lucky even called them the Redskins.
I'm kidding. That's this whole debacle with these teams changing names and
wait till baseball comes. I mean, I'm not going to be able to call them Indians, whatever they are, Guardians, whatever they're called.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It's gonna be we're gonna say Indians for like a year. I'm still saying the San Diego Chargers, and it's been how many years since they left. So I'm
All
with
right.
you. I lean the Redskins here. It looks like most of the support is on the Raiders. I think it makes sense. I try to look at things from Johnny Public. If I'm just the average guy looking at spreads that doesn't really know a ton about football, knows a little bit, knows enough to put a bet in, and I'm looking at the spread, and it's only Vegas -2. They're at home. They're playing well here. Why would I not back the Raiders? So in that case, I hate to break it down into that simplistic of a case, but sometimes that's the way you want to at least start your analysis of some of these spreads. And so that makes me want to go to Washington here with the points, even a money line play. If Heineke puts together one of these big games, would not shock me to see them go out and win this game. So Washington for me here as well. Next one, we got Jacksonville and the Rams. Big spread here as expected. The latest numbers looking like 13, some 12.5s out there as well. Running back news here on both sides. James Robinson likely going to give it a go here. But Scott, not sounding good on Darrell Henderson. They said they're going to test him out before the game, but they are not optimistic that he's going to be able to play. So let's add another value running back here to the pool. Sony Michel, very cheap across the industry. We know how much the Rams love to utilize their running backs here. Interest level there. I was hoping this Henderson news would not break until, after the 1 o'clock games that started, because I do like Sony Michel a lot. I think this is now going to elevate his ownership as he makes building lineups very, very easy, getting his value price tag in there. But unfortunately, that news hitting early here. I still like him. I still think he's in a good spot here. Can only fit so many running backs in a lineup. But Sony Michel, one of the better value plays here on the slate today.
Yeah, the Rams need to get back on track here. I think this is a pretty good spot with Uncle Herbs coming into town. But yeah, Sony Michel is definitely interesting, like you mentioned. Too bad they didn't mention that earlier. I was just kind of looking here. They give up the 17th most points to running backs, that being Jacksonville here. But I mean, we really haven't seen the Rams. They're 26 in total points themselves. But obviously, the wide receivers here have been their strong point. Cooper Kupp and the boys, but I'm not quite sure about Odell today. So Van Jefferson is interesting to me as a guy you might even be able to throw in a season-long league today, as he's going to be the number 2 receiver today. So I do like some Van Jefferson today. But yeah, this one's here interesting. But I think I do like what you're saying about Sony Michel. Definitely going to have to take a look at him. I'm not really interested in anybody on the Jacksonville side here. But yeah, this one here, I think, is in a spot here. The Rams need to take advantage of this spot. They need to get right. They need to just get this losing streak out of their mind with them losing the last few games here. They dropped a couple spots behind the Cardinals, so they're going to have to keep up. I'm pretty sure that they would feel the Cardinals are in a spot to win, so they're not going to want to drop another one here and fall 3 games behind. But yeah, so I think the Rams here are in a spot to get right. But, man, that is a lot of points, 13 points in an NFL game. But on the road or at home, getting Jacksonville, 74% of the money is coming in on the Rams here, Chris. I think I'm going to have to decide with the public here. I think the Rams are going to smash them.
I like the Rams as well. I like Michelle. It sounds like Odell Beckham's going to give it a go, so I don't hate the Van Jefferson play. We've seen them really utilize him down the field. Maybe this is a spot Cooper Kupp gets it going again, so if you can afford him, he's in play. Jacksonville, I'm going to disagree with you. There is one play there. We just talked about Foster Moreau being very, very highly owned, especially on DraftKings at 2,700. James O'Shaughnessy here, Scott, 2,600 at the tight end spot here for Jacksonville. And you're laughing, you're chuckling out there. Who the hell is James O'Shaughnessy? But hear me out. This is a valuable role. I mean, as bad as Jacksonville has been, as bad as Trevor Lawrence has been, he looks for the tight end. And O'Shaughnessy was the tight end 1 before Dan Arnold got there. So he's back in that spot here. If we think the Rams are running away with this game, that means Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball 35, 40, 45 times. The tight end is going to get some receptions here. So if you're down there, you're on Foster Moreau, I don't hate the pivot in tournaments to James O'Shaughnessy. Cash games, sure, I'm going Foster Moreau. I think he's the better play. But if I'm getting this guy at a fraction of the ownership, that's the way I want to go here. So just 2,600 on him. I agree with you. The rest of Jacksonville, though, it's tough to trust. Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, even James Robinson in a negative game script here. So O'Shaughnessy for me. Sony Michel, I think, is a great play with this Darrell Henderson news. And I'm going Rams here. I think the Rams roll. Jacksonville just outmatched in this one. So I hate going with all these points, but give me the Rams to roll in this one. Next one, we got Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Looks like the Ravens -3.5, -4, even some -4.5. So depending on which side you like, we always talking about shopping around. This is a great example of that. Total pretty locked in at 44, 44.5. So Pittsburgh, Scott, coming off a beatdown, just looked defeated. This team does not look great. Baltimore survived last week. Lamar Jackson, an ugly game. Do we want to go back to Lamar Jackson here? We saw Cincinnati put about 1,000 points on this Pittsburgh defense. I think people are going to hesitate here with Baltimore with some other quarterback options that are probably a little bit more attractive than Lamar Jackson right now. Is this a spot we want to go back to the well on him here against the Steelers?
Yeah, the Steelers are struggling. Big Ben, I mean, he's dusty. He needs to give it up, just hang it up. Apparently he said he's going to retire at the end of the year. I mean, he's just been bad. He was sacked 3 times last year. He's been sacked 10 times in his last 3 games. So I think he's going to have a hard time today against Baltimore. I think this one here is going to be a lower scoring game. I mean, the Steelers have not been playing well. They got waxed last week, 41-10 against the Bengals. But, yeah, I think this game here is a spot that Jackson's going to need to get right. I mean, he needs to get going a little bit. He's struggled here recently. I know he's been sick, and I know he's had some troubles, but he threw 4 interceptions last week against the Browns. So, I mean, he just was all over the place, underthrown passes. Actually, he said that I saw an interview. He said he looked like a rookie. So I think he's going to be focused. I think he's going to try to get right here today. So I really like Baltimore in this spot here. But, the interesting thing here is do you pair up Jackson with somebody, or is he a guy that you could just play alone, hoping for his rushing upside? But I do like some Lamar Jackson today. But I think in this game here, Chris, I'm going to lean the under. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be able to do too much offensively.
I like the under here as well. I want to back Baltimore, but Pittsburgh's always one of those teams. As soon as you think they're dead and gone, they rise up. They give you a tough game. But I do see an uglier type game here. Both teams want to run the ball. As far as Lamar, I think you can certainly play him by himself, play him naked, as you'll hear out there in the DFS streets. But you can pair him. Andrews, Hollywood Brown, there's ways to do that as well and capture even more upside. So this one, again, I'm going the under here as well. Last game for us here on the main slate, San Francisco and Seattle. We got San Francisco sitting at mostly -3s across the board. Some juice is up there, -120. Sometimes that's an indicator this thing may go to 3.5. So if you like the Niners, might be the time to get in now at -3. Total ranging anywhere from 44.5 to 45.5. So San Francisco, Scott, in a great spot here. Eli Mitchell, another running back, I think is in an amazing spot here. Seattle been terrible against running backs. Only the Jets have been worse. He's been a workhorse for them as well, involved in the passing game here for the 49ers as well. No Deebo Samuel, I think, helps him tremendously as well. Also think that opens things up for guys like Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. The target tree becomes a lot more condensed here. So the Niners, very intriguing today. Seattle, I'm hands off. This team looks lost. Russell Wilson looks terrible. They're not in sync here. They're talking about getting DK Metcalf the ball more. Maybe that's a play if you're looking for a run it back option, but all San Francisco for me here. And as far as a bet, I'm rolling the Niners here as well. If I can get them at that -3, I think San Francisco wins this game handily. So all aboard the Niners train here, Scott. What do you got in this one to wrap it up?
Yeah, I agree with you. The Niners have just been playing so well. I mean, Russell Wilson, I still think he's bothered with that finger injury. I think they rushed him out there to get him out there. He has not been playing well at all. I mean, these last few games, I mean, he's just not passing the eye test for me. So that's someplace I just do not want to. I'm not going to see myself going. But I'll tell you, man, I'm bummed Deebo Samuel's out, Chris. I mean, I think he was, coming into his own here. We kind of see him kind of doing like what Cordell Patterson's doing. They're moving him all around They're giving him the touches at running back. They're throwing it to him. So I'm going to be interested to see how this San Francisco offense fares without their main guy here today. But like you mentioned, Mitchell's just been so good. So I'm just curious to see if Seattle is going to try to jam the line here. But I will say one thing: Seattle's been playing a whole lot of games that have gone under. Their 10 out of 11 games so far this year have gone under. I think this is going to be another situation here where Seattle's probably not going to score too many points. I think San Francisco is going to want to run the ball. So I'm going to lean the under here in this game. But yeah, Eli Mitchell is definitely interesting for me. I think he'd be about the only piece I'd maybe think about playing. I'm not really interested in paying up for Kittle in this spot. But yeah, I think San Francisco here should have their way with the Seahawks.
And the chat been active here. I've been neglecting the chat. They're talking Hunter Renfrow. We didn't talk much about him, but I do like him today. He's in some of my lineups as kind of a, not even a Foster Moreau pivot. He's just in a good spot. You take Darren Waller out of that lineup, and he's pretty much all they got left. They're rolling out guys like Zay Jones and Brian Edwards. So he is certainly a guy that's going to rack up the yards and the receptions. So they're talking about his receiving yards in the chat. So I love to see the chat active. So I appreciate everybody that got up early and joined the show. Scott, we got some extra time. Let's push it to Sunday Night Football here. Let's just take a quick look. Normally we only cover the main slate, but we're going to give the people some more. A little overtime here. Denver and Kansas City here tonight on Sunday night. Kansas City, 8.5. There is an 8 out there at DraftKings, all the way up to 9.5 at BetMGM. So this spread all over the board. So again, shopping around, super important when you are betting these games. Total locked in at 46.5, pretty much everywhere. So we had some Teddy Bridgewater talk in the chat here, Scott. So Sunday night we know is an island game, so you can play the one game slates on DraftKings, FanDuel. Thoughts on this game? Who stands out? And you can play. There are games that include all of the games, for the whole week. So those are fun slates as well. But this one should be fun here. No Melvin Gordon for Denver. So Javonte Williams, a guy that really stands out here tonight for me.
Yeah, Javonte Williams. We finally get to see this kid get all the touches there. I've been kind of waiting for that. So I think that kid is going to be in a really good spot. He's probably going to be somebody that I'm going to look at playing in my showdown contest that I generally like to get in. We always laugh, Chris. If you lose in the main slate, there's always showdown to get it all back. So
that's right.
We always kind of chuckle about that in the DFS industry. Hey, bad main slate. There's always showdown. But yeah, this game here is definitely interesting to me. I mean, the Chiefs been struggling. Mahomes needs to get stop throwing them interceptions. I mean, he's been I think he's got 11 of them so far this year. So I think that's interesting. But I think this spot here is a spot that Kansas City may have a little bit more than they're expecting here. I think Javonte Williams is actually. I think this is going to help Denver, Chris. I think Melvin Gordon's kind of been holding them back a little bit. I think this kid may pump some life into this team here, and I think Denver might be in a spot here to maybe pull an upset here against the Chiefs today.
That's a bold take, my friend. Very bold. Just looking at some of the pricing here, Javonte Williams on the showdown slate on DraftKings, 7,600. So I think he's going to be a very popular captain play. So there's ways that you can get around that, whether it's go to Kansas City, whether you go with a Denver pass catcher. If they're going to be playing from behind, maybe Javonte gets game scripted out a little bit, or even maybe a Mike Boone play here, Scott. He could be a name. People are so excited about Javonte Williams. We know Denver wants to use multiple backs. So yes, he'll be the majority of that backfield, but I think you're going to see some Mike Boone in play here tonight as well. So you're going with the Denver upset here. So money line, we're taking the points. We're looking at BetMGM, Scott. I can get you up to plus 360 on this one. So you interested in that money line here on Denver?
I mean, maybe as a, put them in a lottery ticket type parlay. I think I would just take the points here. I feel comfortable taking the 9. I even feel at 9 or 8.5, you can bump it up in a tease up to 14.5 or 15. So if I get over that 14 number, I think I would like to tease Denver. I think that's a pretty good spot to get some points here.
Yeah, I like Denver here as well with the points. I think that's the way to Kansas City. They never cover, Scott. They're one of the worst covering teams ever. And they're one of those, we talk about, there's public teams that always, Seattle, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, where Tampa even, where the spread kind of leans towards them always, because Vegas knows that people are going to be out there just betting the Chiefs. I'm betting Patrick Mahomes. It goes back to the guy on the street that's just betting the team he likes. He knows the Chiefs. He knows Mahomes. So I like Denver here in this spot as well. So Scott, let's tie a bow on this thing. We went over all the games, some of our favorite DFS plays, some of our favorite bets, but let's spotlight some of our absolute favorite bets here in our best bet segment here for Sunday. Let's give the people some winners here. Who are you rolling with? Best bets here for this NFL Sunday. What do you got?
Well, I got three of them that I'm looking at. For the first one that I like is I'm going to roll with the under in this Bears and Arizona game, under 42. I don't think there's going to be too many points scored. I think Arizona is going to try to run the ball. So I like the under in that game. And then I'm going to roll with the Denver Broncos, as we mentioned, getting those 9 points against the Chiefs. As you mentioned, they just don't seem to cover. The road team in that matchup is actually 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. So I'm going to roll with Denver getting the 9. And then my last one of the day is I'm going to roll with the Redskins here, Chris. I actually like them straight up here. I do not think Vegas is going to have an answer for Gibson today. So I'm going to roll with the Redskins here and fade the public in that spot.
Just hammering that Redskins, man. Redskins all day, baby. Redskins. I like it. I got 3 for you here as well. I'm going to start out with the LA Chargers +3. Again, I just think everybody's on Cincinnati here. The Chargers have been great this season, so I'm not going to step into the recency bias here. Give me the Chargers +3. I'm rolling with the Rams here. I don't like taking these big spreads normally, but I just don't see Jacksonville being competitive here. It feels like a get-right spot for the LA Rams, so -12.5 on that one. So I will take them and give the points. And I am going with the San Francisco 49ers -3 in Seattle. I think they dominate the Seattle team. Seattle looks terrible. I don't think they come out of it here, and San Francisco rolls in this one. So San Francisco for me, the Rams, and the Los Angeles Chargers are my best bets for Week 13. And that will do it here on Woodward Bets. Thank you guys for joining us here. I love getting up early doing this show, getting prepared. Still got a few hours to get those lineups all set. Thank you to everybody for hanging out in the chat. Some great discussion there today. So we love to see it. Scott, final thoughts for the people here. What do you got here on this beautiful Sunday morning here in Metro Detroit?
Yeah, we appreciate everybody joining us. Joey 2 times has been pretty active there in the chat. So, Joey, we appreciate that. The Funky Lions fan man, too, we appreciate you guys getting in there. Actually put some kind words in there about, as I said, that, they like to watch a few other podcasts. We do the same thing, Chris. We bounce around. I mean, there's all kinds of good information out there. So we definitely appreciate you guys stopping in and checking it out with us. But hopefully we can, these best bets can continue to stay hot for us. We can get us some more lunch money today. And Chris, I think I got a couple more M43s left I might have to dive into to get rid of this little hangover I got going from hanging out there at that FanDuel Sportsbook last night. But, yeah, looking forward to some NFL today. It's too cold to be doing anything else outside. So good day to plop my ass on the couch, eat some food, and watch some football.
Absolutely. So, again, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys enjoy what you see, all we ask, click that thumbs up button on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us at Woodward Bets. And tell a friend, tell a buddy. Say, hey, come check these guys out. Handing out free bets. You're not going to get many spots giving you some free bets. The best bets have been hot, so hopefully we continue that trend here for today. I want to thank, again, the guys at the FanDuel Sportsbook for hosting us last night. I had a great time out there with Stu, JP, and the boys. So thank you so much for that. Looking forward already to our next adventure out there. And congrats to Michigan and all the Michigan fans out there on your Big Ten championship. Way to go. Way to go. Got to give it up for them. They look great. So for Scott, for our boy Kareem behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck in your fantasy, your DFS, and your betting today. And we'll catch you tomorrow, guys. Thanks for watching.